Kia ora e te whānau, and welcome back to the Planting Seeds podcast. Today's episode is with a good friend and brother, Tom Hern, who's a filmmaker, director, writer, but above all, he's a partner and a father. This kōrero is one of depth, vulnerability, resilience, and the hero's journey. We talk about his upbringing in Christchurch, a family incident that shifted everything, living and working on his own at age 15, struggles with drugs and alcohol, as well as the powerful healing between him and his mama. We also talk about a documentary that we are both working on that is set to release next year. This is a kōrero of struggles, creativity, and the full circle of healing. I hope you enjoy this episode. Ngā mihi. All right, greetings, Planting Seeds whānau. Welcome back to the show. Awesome that you're here. And I'm joined by a very good friend, someone that I feel, was going to bring a lot of value into our space through this conversation. Just because I know I get a lot out of it personally. And when I think about, why the Planting Seeds podcast is actually being created is just through meaningful conversations with cool people, and right next to me is a cool person that I get the fortunate of getting to catch up with quite often, and now we're in a space where we're working together. So I just want to introduce brother Tom.
Oh, kia ora, my bro. Honored to be here, man. And I feel exactly the same way. Really appreciate our relationship and some of our kōrero. So excited to be here, bro, and share some of that.
Awesome, bro. Like, you got a real deep voice, eh?
Hey, you owe me a 10-second car.
I bet you no one thought that you were going to sound like that, bro. But brother, you're very much so born and bred here in Aotearoa, down in the South Island, Christchurch, and you've moved around, plenty of times, and you've got a story that has a lot of colour to it, and I feel we can come into some of those chapters and, pull out some of those things that make you who you are, but also just giving people an opportunity to be like, wow, that's the fella behind, these big screens and these big movies or these big plays that are happening, which is like your passion. And so let's start there, bro. Let's start at the start and like your upbringing and, what was that like for you, or what are some of the things you can share?
Yeah, bro. So I grew up in Ōtautahi, Christchurch. My parents separated when I was 1 year old. So I grew up in both homes. So with my mum and my stepfather in one home and my dad in the other home. And bro, I would say that I had a pretty blessed upbringing, especially in those early years. I just grew up, when I reflect back, now being a father myself, I was just instilled with such utter self-belief, It was pretty dope, bro. Especially from my mum, she always just encouraged me to dream, that she just filled me up with this confidence from a young age that I could do anything. It was amazing.
What were some of those things like in terms of what are some of those scenarios where mum say, yes, you can do that? What does that actually look like in terms of her instilling that belief?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was she always just encouraged me to learn how to communicate, and I think she was really ahead of her time to teach me how to communicate my emotions. And so it's not as if my childhood was without, complications. Certainly with my mum, she carried a lot of emotion herself. She carried a lot of sadness, but also joy. She would oscillate between big emotions, but she always tried to give me a toolbox to be able to communicate that. So I was definitely the kid who wanted to be with the adults, communicating with the adults, talking with the adults, and I got a real kind of kick out of that. And I think I was beyond my years, bro, because of the way she always brought me up. And then on my dad's side as well, he was just always there, even though I think some of my passions growing up weren't a natural fit with what he was into. He was always there at my speech competitions or my school plays. So I always just felt so supported. Same with my stepfather, so supported by my parents.
Wow. And like, what are some of those passions, bro? What are some of those passions that you were into?
Oh, bro, yeah, as I say, I think I was a natural talker definitely in those younger years. And I started working in the screen industry, bro, when I was 13 years old, you know.
Wow.
So a family friend of ours saw an ad in the paper for the kids show, What Now?
Oh, true.
And for a reporter, they were looking for a junior reporter. And so pretty much from my first year at high school, I'd already done a couple of little acting things. And before that as well, actually, what I used to do, bro, just remembering now, is I used to call up this, there was this talkback TV show on local television, like on Christchurch TV. And I used to call up every Wednesday night on talkback.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, here's Tom, the regular caller. What do you got for us this week? And it was mainly talking about sports, bro.
Right.
And, I loved sports, and my dream was actually to be a sports commentator.
Right.
And so I'd just call up, bro, and give them the skinny on the All Blacks or the Warriors or whatever it was. And, but then from there, got my first job when I was like 13, but my first professional job. And, my passions, I think, were quite clear, bro. Like I was a performer, a storyteller, a communicator. I loved sports, music, fashion. You know, I always rocked some pretty out the gate looks from when I was a young fella.
Yeah. Well, I did hear you say that your like little claim to fame there too is Louis Brown. Remember some of those spots?
Yeah, well, Louis Brown, bro. Louis Brown and I we used to tell everyone at our school, because he was a year or two younger than me, we used to pretend we were cousins.
Oh, right.
And but yeah, bro, I rocked some pretty out the gate fashion. Like I had like my tongue pierced, my nose pierced, always the frosted tips, green hair, red hair.
Yeah.
And kind of this weird mashup of like hip hop and grunge kind of influence.
Yeah.
But that was quite out the gate, coming from like, you know, my dad was a car wrecker, you know, that was his trade. My stepfather was a car wrecker. When my brother grew up, he was a car wrecker.
Oh, real.
Yeah, so it was real bogan, bro. Like speedway, real like petrol head culture, rugby culture. That was what I grew up around. But then on the other hand, I had my mum, who was like very spiritual in her own way, very interested in like self-development. And, you know, I'm sure we can go into a little bit more about her story as we go. But, so I had these contrasting influences, like sort of uber masculine, where I didn't feel like I always fully fitted in. Like I was always very emotional, very sensitive, very creative. But then I had this other side to me that was interested in footy. Like I loved rugby league from a young age, you know, and I definitely have like a real masculine side to me as well. But it was just as a young man trying to work out how to have all of these things fit in and how to be.
And so moving on from that, you know, like you had this upbringing, you're starting to figure out who you were, and, you know, you've told me stories of, you know, you moved out of home at a young age and you're living on your own as a teenager. And like, what were some of the things that prompted that sort of transition?
Yeah, bro. So as I say, like, growing up, my mum was probably my biggest influence, just in terms of instilling this confidence. And even when I didn't fit in, she always tried to find ways to make that okay for me, which I was super grateful for. But yeah, around the age of 14, my mum went through some very severe transformations and crises. So I remember when I was 14 and my stepfather were at home at our house, and mum was over doing this self-development course in Orlando, Florida. It was called Avatar, and there's very mixed opinions about this program. Like some people feel it's a cult. Some people speak highly of it. My personal take on it was that like it was a little bit out of alignment. It had some great things about it, but it was a little bit out of alignment in how it was teaching and how it was supporting the people going through. But mum was getting a lot out of it to begin with here in New Zealand, and she went to do like a kind of master's version of the program in the US. And anyway, while she was over there, we got this call from the Florida police bureau. And they called, and my stepfather answered the call in the middle of the night, and the Florida police said, "What drugs is she taking? What drugs is she taking?" And my stepfather was like, I doubt she's taking any drugs. But my mum was basically walking around the hotel where the event was naked, bro, speaking in tongues, and she'd lost full sort of traction on her reality.
Right.
And the police had taken her, and then she'd gone into a mental institute.
So she's had some kind of either spiritual encounter or awakening, or like just had some kind of...
Yeah, bro, like reflecting with her after, she was like sleep deprived.
Right.
She had not been eating. And so these are classics. So in medical terms, people would call this a bipolar kind of event.
Right.
In spiritual terms, I think like it was the beginning of her awakening, and it was her rock bottom that opened her up to be able to go on a rebuild journey thereafter.
But all the way over in the States.
All the way over in the States.
Away from family, isolated. No one knows who she is.
Yeah, very dangerous. And so my stepfather makes a snap decision in that moment. Of course, he's flying over there, but he makes a snap decision for me to travel with him. So we travel all the way over there, bro, to the US, and we arrive.
Was this like the next day?
Yeah, we're like out of there. And I'm 14 years old, and I have no idea what I'm traveling into. The only thing, I just have these bits and pieces of information. And so we arrive in Florida, bro, and there was a hurricane going on, like the equivalent of like Hurricane Katrina or whatever back in the day. And bro, so the city is just freaking out. Like this is, and we're calling around, and it's pre-internet. Like we don't even know what mental hospitals.
Yeah.
We're calling around all of these hospitals trying to track down mum, and they're like, don't you know we got a hurricane going on? We're just locking down.
Yeah, like, they're worried about the hurricane.
The global, the bigger environmental issue. But anyway, we finally find my mum, and bro, it was just heartbreaking, just to see her. She had got in a fight with another patient. She had 2 black eyes. And she was just speaking in this way that, like, you got to remember, this is my person. And she was speaking in this way that was not the mum that I recognized. She was on another plane of like, illusion or connection to something else. It depends on how you look at it. But yeah, so it became a very, very intense journey, bro.
At 14.
Yeah, at 14. And we had to get her from Orlando. We had to talk the doctors. My stepfather talked the doctors into letting us take her back home. So we started the journey from Florida to Los Angeles. We were in Los Angeles for a few days, and the stuff that was happening was so destabilizing, because there was some really crazy behavior going on, and it was harrowing and discombobulating. And bro, I just remember this one moment of sitting in because we were staying with these friends in LA on the way home. And I remember sitting in their backyard just with this wireless radio, and I was thinking about it when I was driving over here. And I was just listening to this gospel music, like black gospel in America, just sitting in the backyard and really just praying for some sort of comfort and protection, just feeling so lost and getting that in that moment from that, just feeling this connection to the divine and having some refuge,
Yeah. Especially with dealing with everything that you were going through at that time, uncertain, not really knowing like where mum is, or, how to actually support, or even just not even knowing what you were going through at that time. And because your mind would have been mind-boggling, like spinning, like what's even going on?
Spinning. Yeah. And my stepfather was consumed with taking care of her.
Yeah. That he had no way to sort of look after you in a way, or
so he I'm sure he did his best.
Yeah, of course.
And he was doing his best, but so he was, and we were having to sedate mum, and it was just, she spoke with such conviction, even in this altered state, that I wasn't sure whether to believe her. And she was talking about things she was carrying an immaculate conception, like out the gate stuff, and like, because it's my mum, a part of me really did believe what she was saying, But anyway, bro, we got her back to New Zealand, and the way it works is when there's a mental incident like that and you're on the plane, is the police meet you at the other end. So the police met Mum, and they put her essentially into like a paddy wagon type scenario, or like whatever it was. She got taken to a mental institution in Christchurch. And this became the start of my mum's massive rebuild, you know, and that went on for a number of years. But while she was rebuilding, I was sort of, I was left, and I don't, you know, I'll talk a bit about, you know, how I was able to process this over time, but I was spinning too in my own way. And so after about a year after this incident, it coincided with my father also going through some very intense stuff on his side, which I won't go into because I haven't asked his permission to share his story. But he went through also a very unfortunate and severe kind of thing at that time.
Same time. Yeah.
So it was crazy. I had this beautiful upbringing, but then these two kind of for me fell away for a time. And so, bro, I just went into this like really like struggling phase. And also, bro, I was just starting to go through intense puberty and like growing up as a man. And so it became a very formative time for me, and I stopped going to school, and, you know, and so, bro, in the fifth form, or like the equivalent of what's that, year 11, I just stopped going to school, and I was quite artistic at the time. I was seeing this much older girl as well, and I was just like, I was in my feels, bro, like really in an artistic, melancholic, kind of depressive sort of
functioning state in a way. And
I just couldn't make sense of a lot of stuff. But I got this opportunity, bro. I was like, I want to leave school. And I think I hit up my boss at What Now at the time, and I'd been working as a reporter this whole time. And I said to him, bro, some shit's going down. Like, can you give me a job? And he said, well, I'll need to ask your mum. And he said, because you'll need to move to Wellington. And I was living in Christchurch still. You'll need to move to Wellington for this job. And so he spoke to Mum, and Mum's like, even though Mum was in her rebuild, she was mean, man, how she just like, she believed in me to be able to like cope. Like, it's not an orthodox parenting method, but like she believed that she'd filled me with enough to be able to cope with anything. And she could see what was going on with her and at home and everything. And so she allowed me to
move to Wellington,
to step out and to go take that bold risk. You know, so, bro, I moved into my own flat.
At 15?
Yeah, bro. At 15, I had my own flat. It was like a bed sit beneath the bro Anthony Samuel's house. So I did have someone like watching out for me, but it was full like my own cooking setup, my own bathroom, and I started living my own life. And then I had my big brother who lived up the road, thankfully, and who's a lot older than me. He's like 15 years older than me. And he had married into a Samoan family. So those guys became my real family through that that teenage journey. But yeah, I just became my own man. I was earning $500 a week.
Man, that's heaps back then. Because wasn't even What Now just like the Saturday morning?
By then, bro, it was just starting to be weekdays as well. The afternoons, like WNTV.
Yeah.
So, bro, it was the meanest job you could ever have. Like, I was interviewing all the musicians that would come through: Ben Harper, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Billy Piper, like those old school stars, Mandy Moore.
Man.
And then I would review video games and movies. And so there's a lot of people that grew up in my era, bro, that still remember me as the What Now guy, because I was like their age.
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, it was this big
But you're going through all of these different things in the background,
like people had no idea, like, you know, and so...
In a way, did it feel you? Did it be like, man, I'm out here on my own and I've got this job, I've got this opportunity? And
I just think as a young man, I just sort of compartmentalized that and just focused on what I was doing.
When did it eventually surface? Was there a time where it did?
Yeah, bro, there really was. 'Cause I think, as mum's rebuild went on, as a young man, I definitely felt resentful towards her for, I think, abandoning me. There was a judgment of her, um, what she went through. And it wasn't until much later, bro, like in 2017 was when all of that kind of went full circle. Because even at 15, I moved out of home, and I did learn some bad habits, bro, just with my drinking and drug taking and stuff like that. And so I became quite a heavy drinker, and even though I was experiencing some career success and stuff, like through all those years, it was many, many years later that I basically went through my own version, bro, of a full circle thing of
The
my
dark
own
night of
falling
the soul,
apart.
eh?
Yeah, bro. And I started, because of my drinking and my stuff that I hadn't dealt with emotionally, I had quite an intense collapse myself, and I started behaving in destructive ways and hurtful ways to other people. And I really just hit my own rock bottom, bro, where I was suicidal for a sustained period there, and it was actually my mum, bro, who was able to hold space for me the most in that moment. And so this compassion came in towards my mum, and I was able to forgive her. And it was a very, very deep healing and life-changing experience to be able to go, oh man, I fully empathize with what you were going through, and I love you. And yeah, so that was super intense.
Did you feel the resentment sort of like transmute into that compassion? Like,
definitely, bro. And like my compassion grew, I think, for all people. It started with mum, because that was the relationship to heal, the most important relationship at that time to heal. But then it went out to everyone because
100.
How I had behaved in the lead up to that, bro. I'd done some stuff that I never thought I was capable of, that I certainly never wanted to do, and that to this day, I still battle with, guilt and shame over,
certain things that you've done and been a part of.
Yeah. But because of that, bro, it's just like my judgment of other people is basically non-existent. So I can sit with anyone and even if they've done horrific things, and I'm compassionate for that, because I know what I'm capable of. So in a way, I still feel sorry for any harm or hurt that I caused other people, but it's also a big gift for me that carry in my walk now.
I actually love that you bring that up, because you almost have to go through some kind of adversity and dark night of the soul to give that level of understanding about not just yourself, but what other people tend to go through. And if you go through something that is very challenging, whether it is, experiencing things with your mum, or even just having your own internal challenges, or being at the edge of mental, you go to those spaces and then you realize, like, holy hell, like, I'm not invincible, or I'm not the one who can just stand on the mountain and look down on people. It's really crushing in many ways of versions of yourself, and then you meet this part of you that is connected to all in a way. And I understand that fully, because all of the setbacks that I've had, I now can like empathize and have a lot more compassion to where people are, because being in the space, even with the podcast, like, people go through things and they come into the space and then they realize, like, oh, I'm not the only one. And so I think there's something beautiful within going through these challenges, but having the strength and the resilience and the patience with yourself, and even fortunate to have support for people to hold that space for you. It's beautiful to have all of these different things around you in your toughest times, because it makes you see that, holy, the times we think we are alone, we actually aren't. But it takes a while for us to meet that, eh?
definitely, bro. Yeah, definitely. And I think like, yeah, that's a huge turning point of just like the shattering of judgment, bro. Is just like it was,
Who am I to judge, eh?
Yeah, who am I to judge? And still to this day, but like there was some little things, bro, in that era, because man, it was a bloody tough comeback, bro. Like it was in the muck and mire, and just like,
what does that look like? What does that look like for you? Is that just can't get out of bed, not eating, just belittling yourself? Like, what are some of the
pure self-hatred, bro? Like just, and just horror that I'd let myself get to the place where I hurt people, because that's not my essence. That's not my nature.
Was this when you were using like drugs or alcohol?
Yeah,
was it just in those
drugs
times?
and alcohol, yeah. And
so only when you were under the influence?
Only when I was under the influence. And there were just a couple of particular occasions, bro, where I just did things that like, were just so out of sorts for who I am. And so just having to process that and having to really look at that. So I had about a year after that real rock bottom where I was still drinking and just like getting my way just through the real tough part of it. And like there was a lot of struggling to get out of bed, but bro, right in the thick of that, actually a guy who I give massive props to was the brother Ruben Wiki.
Right.
Because I joined Ruben Wiki's burpee challenge.
Yeah.
And each day we just had to do our burpees and then film them and put them up. And some days, bro, I didn't get anything else done other than my burpees, but it was something. I achieved something.
Momentum, eh?
Yeah, and just moving the body. And so that became like a big lesson for me. But yeah, there was about a year that I was still drinking and struggling, and then another big turning point was when I decided to do a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Japan, of all places. You can actually do this Vipassana retreat in lots of places around the world, but it was almost like perfectly, bro. The one place that was available was in Tokyo. And so my last drink, bro, was actually the night before I started that. I remember it was a beautiful draft beer in Tokyo, the Japanese draft beer, bro.
Went down good too,
It went down a treat.
I'm glad that it was a good last beer.
On my own, and so then I went and did this Vipassana retreat and a 10 days of silent meditation, and I learned this practice, and that was the start of my sobriety. So that's about 7 years ago, just over 7 years ago now.
Man, one of the other things that was coming up for me, as you're sharing, is that there are these versions of ourselves that do things that, we probably shouldn't have done, mistakes, we hurt people. And one of the things that I know comes from this space of like healing and growth and transformation is that although we've done these things, if we learn from them and grow from it, people still remember us for that version of ourselves. And I think a part of the journey as well is just to continue ours rather than bringing ourselves back or letting how people perceive us in those times be some of the things that can keep us there. But it's also comes back to compassion again, It comes back to that empathy, is that we know we are on our path. We have forgiven ourselves for that time. We have done our best to sort of show the sense of, what would it be, apology towards whoever was involved. But if we must carry on moving forward, and I think the more we stay the path, the more evident it shows that we have changed and that we have grown, rather than just saying that we're going to do something and then end up resorting back. And I just wanted to touch back on that because I think it's just important, and for people to know that people still might remember a certain version of you, but you have to stay in it long enough to show that you have changed.
100%, bro. Like that's a rich vein to tap into. There's a number of things that come up for me, and I would love to say, bro, that I'm like at the point in my journey where I don't care what other people think. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think like there's definitely like a part of me that deeply cares what other people think and deeply yearns for approval still. But there is a part of me, thankfully, and this is like, you know, something that I've learned over the last few years, is there can be multiple parts of who you are.
100.
You know, and that was a big learning for me. So there's a part of me that is really making progress in that way and letting go of other people's, the need for other people's approval of me. And part of that had to get burnt down, bro. Because a whole lot of people hated me around the time of my behavior in 2017. So, bro, if I was solely relying on their approval, I couldn't find any hope.
Yeah, sure.
My approval had to start getting built in something more enduring than that, which is self-respect, which is service, which is finding ways to actually give in a meaningful way. And you know, and to actually let go of this more fickle, more temporary thing of other people's opinion and trying to earn that through success, which was like this unquenchable thirst. You know, the unhealed part of me just like kept driving me over the edge, seeking like happiness through external success and other people's approval.
It's like searching for depth in shallow spaces in a sense, eh?
Definitely.
But I think that's true. Like there are multiple versions of ourselves and who we are, I think, in that whole space of like knowing how deep we can go. And we know who we are, like on an intimate, like kind of level with ourselves. Like we know how far we have gone within ourselves and how deep in the challenges that we've gone through. Other people don't have that kind of understanding, but that also shows where we can go. And, you know, if we just meet a new person, we're going to hold a little bit back, you know, it's natural, but you also want to be true within that too, rather than one of my things would always be overextend, you know, because I want people to like me. So I'm a people pleaser at heart, you know, because that was just something that was within me through a very large part of my life and oftentimes not being met. And so there would always be that desire, like, oh, I got to go harder next time, or I got to show more. Whereas now, just being a bit more mature in myself is that actually I don't need to do that. You know, I don't need to do that. I can reserve that for where I know it's going to be reciprocated. And that's actually not that much people. But in ways, I actually enjoy that when that side does come out, you know, rather than trying to be that version in every single space. It's actually knowing and having the understanding, like, okay, I know who I need to be here. That doesn't mean to say that I'm dimming my lights or I'm being less. It's actually just being aware of where I'm at and who I am, you know? Does that make sense?
Sorry, just to cut you off. I want to mention Seeds of South, the #1 Māori community for people who are growth-minded, as well as on a journey of breaking cycles and wanting to create lasting changes in health, finances, relationship, but above all, themselves. If this is something that resonates with you, use the link below to book a one-on-one call with me to see if it's aligned for you. Now let's get back to the kōrero with the brother Tom.
100%. And what it makes me think, G, is like your light and your shadow are the same. It's the same source.
100.
So it's like, you know, for you, when that's in alignment, that's what makes you beautiful. Because like you are kind, you do care about others. Like, but like your shadow becomes when like your needs, your neediness, or like your unmet needs are in the driver's seat, and then you're overreaching.
That's it.
So it's like the same for me, bro. My compassion, my ability to see other people's pain and like and recognize that and hold space for that is my strength.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm like putting that before my own needs, or you know, it's the exact same thing. So no, I think it's just about learning to calibrate that and learning to take care of yourself. And yeah, so for me, bro, the sobriety like was a big part of that, because while I was drinking, I couldn't really foster that version of myself.
I like that, and there's like a lot of people right now who are doing it's almost like a trend in a sense with a lot of people moving into more sobriety, and I'm for it. And I had a time in my life where I went
sober for 4 years because, alcohol was a real crippler in my life, and that version of myself that I was trying to work through, you just can't work through it if you keep bringing it out. And so, the interesting thing with that though is what I realized in my whole journey with that is I started to love the person that I was becoming. But then I realized, through the bro Jordan, that I was actually running away from a version of myself as well.
Yes.
And so there was the need. That need was like such a void in my life that it was driving a lot of what I was doing. And I actually had to fill that first. And I stopped running away from the version of myself, and I actually folded into the acceptance.
Yes.
And I was tested big time because the first night I drank, everything went wrong. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Yeah. Like all of the things that I thought that I had worked through in 4 years of sobriety just went out the window on my first night. Didn't go to sleep till 11 o'clock the next day. 2 weeks before my wedding, Hene Pania was going to leave me at the house because I was just acting up. One of my good bros ended up, doing something like out of line that wasn't like good for him or his partner. And I just couldn't believe it, here I am, this transformed person. Then I go back to drink, and then I didn't do anything. And so what that made me see was there's an opportunity there for me, because the 4 years wasn't a waste. I had developed a lot of awareness of myself, but can I work on these aspects of myself rather than just running away from it? So it gave me an opportunity to be more whole within myself, that feel like I'm at a good place with it now, but always room to grow. And it's quite interesting that, we went through that in 2017, and not long after we actually met, at the Wānanga with all of the bros, and which was very transformative for many of us, because it was a beautiful space that we were in. We had this amazing group of men that were just wanting to share their perspective on life and like be there to help each other, support each other, and even not really knowing what was happening, but just being present with it, eh? And so talk about what that meant for you,
Shucks, bro. That was huge. And respect to Jordan, man, for inviting me into that space. I'll always be deeply grateful to him for that. Just to meet you guys, man, right when I was on my own rebuild journey. But I always felt like Jordan and I actually always joke that we're the nomads, and like kind of on our own path, and like, and this was so epic to just meet these other men, bro. I'd never met men like you guys who were interested in the same journey as me, of just like seeking something deeper, seeking healing, seeking just something deeper out of life. And of course, there's lots of other people out there that exist, but I'd never met them, bro, to be honest. And to meet a whole room, like, bro, it was like the All-Stars, bro. It was a stacked, stacked team. And, bro, it was just right at a pivotal. I was still very vulnerable in that part of my journey, but just to meet these epic men, like, it was life-changing.
I thought it was like, super life-changing, and again, just looking around and just being like, far out, like this is actually happening, and some of the conversations that were happening and the moments of connection was just so beautiful. And I think about where we are at the moment in terms of tāne and men, and I really think that those spaces are what's needed for a lot of our people in terms of just creating these safe, that's what it was really, It was just a safe space. And like fortunate enough to be involved in a few of those kaupapa, but I think that was just super transformative for me, because
you are very gifted, my bro, in that space. Like I've had the honor to be in the other wānanga with you as well, and see you facilitate and be a part of that. And I just want to mihi you for that work, my bro, and encourage you to to keep going in that space, because you really have a beautiful talent. So thank you, bro, for jamming in those spaces.
Awesome, bro. Thank you so much for that. I actually want to stay there a little bit more, just because I know at that time there was another full circle moment with Mame, because she was going through her her illness and treatments, and so
yeah.
do you want to speak more about that?
Yeah,
As this has been
100%, bro. So that's right. So I actually came to that King's Wānanga. I was taking a break from caring for my mum, who was going through cancer at that time, stage 4 cancer. And this was a few years into my own rebuild after the 2017 shattering that I described. So I'd been continuing the grind of of my work, my inner work, and really through the trenches, bro, and the mud of that self-hatred initially, and then trying to just get on a bit of a fitness journey, trying to maintain my meditation. After I did that, I went and did that, and I was just in the grind of that. But when my mum got sick, I had done enough work that I felt in this place. So when mum got diagnosed, I just felt this calling to go and be her guy, her wingman, her spiritual wingman as well. Because she'd been with me. I'd been with her in Orlando. She'd been with me in 2017, albeit mostly over the phone and over just Zooms and stuff. But she'd been there, and then now she'd been hit with this terrible health diagnosis. So, and I just felt well enough to go and be right by her side and serve her. And so that's what I did, bro. So, and what unfolded down there was this incredibly difficult, but also incredibly beautiful time where everything just went full circle for mum and I. And that was her journey. Don't get me wrong. Like, she was Batman, I was Robin. So I was just wingman to her, But basically, bro, over a year period, and particularly the last few months, I was her wingman as she went through the dying process. And the grace and bravery in which she carried herself through that. Jeepers creepers, man. That was the most powerful thing you could ever witness. Later, witnessing childbirth has got to be up there, but, birth and death. And, bro, I say that what she taught me there was everything I could need for the rest of my life. And so my job now is not to forget to remember what she taught me. Yeah, so it just basically, bro, I got this lens through the veil into the other side. Not just literally as she was dying, but in the weeks that the heavens were opening, I got to see through. And that was the privileged position of being the wingman, because I was meditating so much. I was serving her. I was the best version of myself in those months because it was utter service. So that just stripped away ego, and it stripped away all the bullshit, bro. And I was, watching her body decay, watching her go through intense pain, intense struggle, but keep reaching for the light. And so, yeah, I got these little glimpses, bro, through to the divine, and yeah, it was like nothing else.
Man, what were some of the key words or sentences that mum would say, or her presence or her energy? What were some of those things?
It wasn't in the words.
No, it wasn't.
It was in the surrendering.
Yeah.
It was in the surrendering and the seeing her humanness. Bro, she was hit with fear, She was hit with intense pain, but each time the bravery that she'd have to keep reaching for the light, to just surrender to that, to go God is good, or whatever her version or your version of that is. God is good, love is good. I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose that this is what's meant to be, And so just to see that modeled. But we had some powerful, worldly talks as well. like she shared with me some of her regrets, and I shared with her some of the stuff that I was battling with at the time. And so we had some deep convos on a worldly level, but I'll never forget, man, because like we were still holding out hope, and I'll never forget, man, when we went in, she had a surgery, and we hoped the surgery was going to be like the thing that saved her, and it wasn't. And I remember we're sitting in there with the specialist, and they gave her the terminal diagnosis, and it was like a matter of weeks after that. And shucks, man, it was so hard, bro. But yeah, she just took it like a champ. Like it was like she knew, just that she knew, and
she was okay with whatever came.
Yeah, but I just remember this imagery, bro, when she was really dying, and I just walked her down to the end of the driveway in her wheelchair. She could barely often leave the room. And I took her in this drive down to the end of the driveway, bro, and there's just this beautiful low light was coming through the leaves, and there was just like this, as I say, bro, it felt like we were in heaven, It was really amazing, bro. So, yeah, I just feel so privileged to have played that role for her after our whole journey to go full circle, and then me to be able to hold her hand as she continues her final steps home, Yeah,
man, that's beautiful imagery, bro. And even just that moment and experience for you, and the love between, you and mum, and everything that you had gone through throughout your journey. She brought you into this world, and you were the one who to support her, and she takes that next step. And so, rest in peace to your mum, and just big mihi to you for taking us on that journey. That could so be a movie in many ways, brother. And which actually is a great segue into, we've talked about you as the man, you as the person, with many, probably so much more in between. But, reason why we're here, and the reason why we're not in the trailers, because we're working together on a documentary, because that's your craft. You're someone who stayed in the screen space. You're very much so a storyteller. You create images in your mind and imagination, and you pull things together, and then you actually create it on screen. And so talk more about that, bro. Talk more about what you do now, and some of the things that are expressions of the person you are.
Yeah, bro, for sure. So I'm a filmmaker and a storyteller, and I think like the older I get, the more experienced in the game I get. Really, I think of myself as a communicator. At its most base core thing is like, sometimes I say I'm an emotion trader.
That's cool.
Because in a way, that's what I'm trading emotions with the audience. So there's this central piece that I'm exchanging with them. So I'm often trying to tap into how something is going to make an audience feel. But yeah, some of the things I've been most proud of over my career. So I produced the film The Dark Horse, starring Cliff Curtis back in the day. I was a young buck, bro, when I produced that film. And
how old were you?
Bro, I would have been like early to mid-20s.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's pretty out the gate.
Yeah.
Then I've produced films with like Daniel Radcliffe, Chloe Grace Moretz, some big players like on more international productions. After Mum passed, I actually, with my bro Noah Finau, Life for Noah, we co-created and produced the Panthers series.
That's gangster, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Now I'm really proud of it. And that was like marked my move into writing and directing, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's like, the thing about screen space is there's the artistic side, the storytelling side. Then, bro, there's the whole deal-making, hustling side, like which is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I sort of fall in and out of love with like that side of it, to be honest, but it's a pivotal part of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's something I'm good at, bro, to be honest. Like,
well, that was like one of our big convos when we done a drive up to Auckland. It was just around that hustle and like how much you have to learn about yourself in the business side of things, because you've got a family to feed, but you also got this passion and you don't want to be unwavering about what that looks like. So you're learning so much around around professional and personal development within those spaces, eh?
Big time, bro. I'm a high school dropout, as I just shared. But, bro, I've raised like, I think between $75 and $100 million in my career, like real money. I've led boardrooms full of lawyers. Like, you know, I've moved in spaces that I had no right to be in. And now I feel fully comfortable moving in those spaces. And there's a part of me, bro, there's a teenage part of myself, that like more gangster part of myself that's like, I loved it. You know, and I'm like, don't come for me. You know, don't come for me. Cause like I've survived enough that I'll swipe back, you know. So like,
and you've just got that in you too.
Yeah, just that fighter energy, that scrapper energy. That's like, you know, growing up even in like what I say, that like Bogan, Christchurch, scrapper,
almost thrive on it, eh?
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like, I don't mind rolling up my sleeves. So like, I've got that hustler in me. But I think what's cool now is that's like more balanced with these other sides of me, like, you know, the more yin energy, like that more feminine sort of energy as well. So it feels more in alignment now. But yeah, my professional journey has been epic. And so the cool thing is, bro, is it's like being a project manager, being a producer, as well as an artist, being someone who raises money, who hustles. Like, bro, the amount of times I've had to like do a rope-a-dope where I just like take hits in the corner. I'm like almost broke financially. And then I just come out and just trade my way out of like the financial hole. Bro, it's happened so many times. And so, you know, things like when it did come to, for example, mum's funeral or like running stuff, it's like I can take these experiences back to my village and I know how to like organize a funeral, even though I've never organized a funeral, because a lot of those skills are transferable. Or I know how to communicate and have a difficult conversation with a family member because I've had to do that in a work context. So like, it's been pretty cool, bro, that this whole work journey has like sharpened all of my tools. And I think like moving as we do in the Western world, like people who are on a spiritual path can downplay the value of moving in a professional space, but they're one and the same. Like often if you're moving in a certain way professionally, it's actually making you a better father, making you a better son. So that's been pretty mean, bro.
Yeah, that's mean. And it's cool to see, you know, like we've been good friends for a little while, but then being in the space on a working relationship, it's been great just to see that aspect of yourself come out, and, you know, the way you see things or the way you communicate to the team, and even just having people around you, and, you know, how you're positioning me in spaces, and, you know, you're really good at like hooking me into certain things, bro. So let me tell you the story. Like, we're doing a documentary at the moment around the Trillionaire Thugs NFT space, and, you know, a few months ago, I don't know how long ago now, but I was driving and then Tom rings me up, pulls over to the side, and we're just having a chat like this, basically, you know, we're just having a mean chat, talking about life and each other and kids and partners and where we're at, and then all of a sudden the bro just sort of like drops, "Oh, bro, you remember the Trillionaire Thugs?" I was like, "Ooh, yep, I remember." Can't not. He was like, "Oh, what do you think, bro? What do you think about that?" So I was fine. I just started talking about my experience about it, and it just really took me back to a time. But then he dropped this other line. He was like, "Oh, well, we're making a documentary, and you know how you're doing a lot of things for like men and vulnerability and stuff like that." And he said, "Wow, is this something that you think you could do for like present our show?" And I was like, "Whoa!" And so, yeah, for me, it was like a real, like, because I was just in my truck and I was just far out going through all the feels and feeling nervous and excited. But that one line really got me, you know, because, yep, I'm sharing all of these things and I'm doing these things. And, you know, this is an opportunity for me to actually step into their vulnerability and, you know, share my side of things and, you know, be a bit more transparent about what their time was. And so, you know, like, now coming on board and seeing things develop, it's been like a awesome process of like understanding like more of that time. But even just in this, you know, because I do the podcast and just seeing you work your magic and being around people like Drew, and I'm learning so much because I'm in a similar space in a way. So it's been cool, bro. And I'm excited, for like what we're creating together and how it's all coming to be, bro. So, like talk about it. Like what are some of what's coming up for you?
Oh, bro, it's been a joy to jam with you. And bro, shot for being brave enough to step into, to actually walk the walk, bro. Cause like, I basically like threw down the whittle to go, like you talk about vulnerability, you talk about these things. So let's like put you into a space, and so not many people.
That got me, G. Bro, the bro's a hustler, bro. He needs that money coming in for you to do this work.
When the art of persuasion is what puts bread on the table, you get good, bro. But nah, respect to you, bro, for having the balls to pick up that whittle and nah, it's mean and but no, it's such a cool project, bro, because like on one hand, of course, it's fun and funny. Like there's sort of funny aspects about that time, and like there's a lot of light energy in the documentary and people are having a laugh.
Yeah.
But then I think it's also, it is an opportunity to actually like examine like what was so seductive about that and to ask some of those bigger questions and maybe reflect on where some of those things, maybe we got those things wrong or could learn from them. So but bro, that's again amazing lineup of people involved. Like even just yesterday going to the 92 World, meeting those guys, that was my first time meeting Jaquil and Eddie, and I was just so blown away by what they're doing in the community and their hearts and their integrity. Tara and Mayava, Paris has been so integral and pulling together such an amazing network of people. But bro, we're heading to Dubai.
See if the bro's gonna
Dubai to hopefully link up with the brother Fortify and hear his side of it. So it's just been epic, bro. But to be honest, a real highlight to just work with you in a professional capacity and just to be around you, bro. Like I always find it so inspiring. So
bro, likewise, bro. It's like we get into our deep chats and then all of a sudden someone else sits down and then I got to go over here and then we just pick up where we left off.
Oh, bro, the fucking Tanya drive.
But that was me,
out the gate. That was a marathon, man.
Bro, we drove 4 hours from fucking Tanya to Auckland and me and the bro just did not stop talking the whole way. Which is why this podcast is actually happening as well. Like, we're pretty much just repeated like what we spoke about.
It's me, bro. But it just makes me feel this is the power of great friendships. You just feel more of a sense of belonging on the planet because, like, you just go, oh, far out. There's other people out there who I understand and who understand me. And so, you do feel less like an alien, which is like for a lot of my early life, like that's how I felt. I felt like I didn't fit in. People didn't understand me. I was a nomad, as George would say. And so meeting people like you and other men, and that's the value of, like, back to your prior point about wānanga and the space of tāne is just feeling like a safety and being accepted.
That's great when we can actually like expose certain parts of ourselves and for it not to have that cast of judgment over some of those things or for additional shame to be added to it, because when you're going through this space of connection and you connect with someone and then you start to figure out, we can go to this next layer of like, okay, I can share more of this about me. And you start to gauge around like how much people actually care about you based on how much you reveal. And are they still there willing to hold space, and just support you through that without that sense of judgment. And I feel that's been something that we've been able to maintain,
Exactly.
Because the first time we ever connected was at that one. And so that was like the basis, it was like just boom, we're there. And, like a lot of like what we've been talking about is like masculinity and like tāne and, going through all of these highs and lows. And, one of the things that I've been throwing out there is it takes a while for us as tāne to actually mature within ourselves, because we realize that actually we don't have to just be this one version of ourselves or of what society or what our uncles or whatever else we want to sort of like portray as like, oh, that's what it's like to be a man, because we try that you know, and whether that's being womanizers, whether that's drinking the most, whether that's fighting, whatever it looks like to have that sense of dominance or pride or acceptance from your peers, that wears out at some point. And so it takes a while for us to mature into being like, actually, it's not just about being that. I need to actually learn more about who I am and like how else I can communicate or how else I can just accept me. And so like a lot of like where the podcast is going at the moment is more around that. It's like brother to brother, you know, like what do we need as men, or like how can we talk about these things? So for you, bro, like what does that look like for yourself?
Yeah, that's so invaluable. Well, like, you know, talking about those, you're maturing, you know, definitely. Like, I mean, the crazy thing for me, bro, was moving out of home at 15 is I matured very young in certain ways.
Right.
You know, so I was providing for myself that whole way, you know, and so I had to learn to certain maturity things in that way. And I think I could move in a lot of rooms and people would think I was way beyond my years. But my emotional maturity was, on the other hand, bro, I was still actually, I had this like inner child, this hurt kind of inner child that would jump in the driver's seat when I would drink. Or just at times in terms of the neediness of needing people to like me, and that actually clouding my judgment of decision making. So I was presenting as a very well put together, mature young man, but I actually, bro, I was
Still
actually
a
a
boy.
little boy,
Yeah.
you know. And it wasn't until my 30s, started with the sobriety, because it's different to your journey, you know.
Yeah.
I had to just get that shit out of the way to get my act together, you know, and to build some self-respect, because I didn't respect. I hated that little boy was still in the driver's seat, and I wanted to be a tani, you know. And so for me to be a tani, I had to learn to serve. And I had to, but before I could serve, I had to build some strength. Once I built some strength, then I served my mum. And when I had served my mum through that journey, for the first time ever, I looked in the mirror and I went, "You're a good man." You know? And that's the first time ever really that I was a man. You know, and that's 33, 34 years old, you know. And it just so turns out that once I became a man, then I could become a father, you know. And so my fatherhood journey has been beautiful, bro. And like, I think comparably to a lot of people, actually kind of easy, you know, because I've felt so equipped to be a father. I feel like I am a man. I do respect myself as a man now, you know. There's still a part of me that struggles, that's unhealed, that I have to keep coming back to and working on. But there's enough of me that I go, yeah, you're serving, you're doing your best. You know, I can look at that guy in the mirror and not hate who I am, you know, and that's like, I'm super proud of that work.
Beautiful, bro. That's far out. That's so cool. It wasn't until my late 30s that after serving, building strength, serving mum, look in the mirror, and then I could finally feel proud within myself of who you had become. And it's great that we can, I guess, talk about that, because, you know, we try and be that way too quick, you know, but we have to actually go through so many challenges and ups and downs to actually meet ourselves. And, you know, it's a decision in a moment to be like, I'm going to start showing up for me. And like, as you just started doing burpees, you just got to start with something small.
Yeah.
And it leads into something else, leads into something else.
That burpee challenge started with one burpee a day.
Yeah.
That's how Rubes is genius in that way. We went one, the next day is two, all the way up to 100.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a great metaphor for the whole thing.
100%.
Like,
just keep building, keep stacking, and then over time, you've actually built this momentum to now eventually do 100.
You said this thing in Whakatane and when we were talking on the beach, and I love what you keep coming back to, because I think like we have to give our young men space to just be young men, you know, and like, yeah, because we can mature late, and there's this unreasonable, like even in their 20s, you know, or 30s, as we're talking about, you know, to have it all sorted. And I just think it's really unreasonable.
They're just like elderly men who are still have that little boy at heart. You know, there are elderly men who still haven't dealt with things from their early childhood. And so, you know, it's like we can't even say 30 is the right appropriate age. You know, it's just everyone's on their own individual journey, but it's unreasonable for us to have this expectation as a society to put on young people to be a certain way. And that's where the pressure is. And, you know, and they idolize, you know, things like whether it's league or actors or social media influencers. And so they're in a rush. Like I remember when I was young, you know, you just want to be old. You want to start driving. You want to be the man. You want to buy your own food. You don't want to just have a little bit of chocolate. You want to have the whole block. You know, but there's all of these things as a young person that parents do to actually sort of protect their youthfulness in a sense, eh? And so, you know, you just want to enjoy that time. And so that's a big message that I like to share. And, you know, knowing my own story and just hearing yours and many others, it takes a while for us to get to that point of actually realizing that we are okay within ourselves and that we are doing our best and that we are finding our path in life. And so it's just a matter, for me at least anyway, is the moment we decide that we are going to start just doing one burpee a day, the moment we decide to like put those challenges to the side, such as alcohol or the things that are in the way, like those little decisions or big decisions actually lead to a better quality of life, which is something that I'm hard out an advocate for. But just as you gave me a whittle of like, oh, well, step into the vulnerability, it takes that, you know, because we can understand it and conceptualize it, but can we actually build the little bit of strength we need to actually step into those moments? And that's my reminder on a daily is I can talk these things, but let me walk it so that can be the proof for myself first and foremost.
Yeah, I love that, bro. And I guess where I was blessed, even though I was like pushed into a sink or swim, or I dove into the sink or swim at 15. I was lucky that in those younger years where my mum had instilled this toolbox with me of like being quite like fluid and articulate with how I feel, like being able to communicate how I feel. So I had this massive adversity, but like, and I wasn't quite ready to like really process all of that. But by the time I hit my own rock bottom, I still had this from my childhood, you know. So as a father now, I really think my number one priority is like to try and just give that same toolbox to my kids, or hopefully even grow on the toolbox that mum gave me to know how they feel and to express that simply, you know, like, yeah.
I think that'd probably be the best thing, bro, is for us as parents and just for our kids to be themselves, however that looks, you know, but also just give them the space to fall over as well, which is hard for me at the moment.
Same.
You know, I'm just like bubble wrapped there, you know, like. But you know, those are the learnings as a parent. Is like, yep, you're learning so much from your own upbringing, and there's even so much in that is like far out. It's not until I've become a father that I've actually understood what I interpreted as a young person. And so, you know, there's all of these synchronicities. And so even just like how I am towards, you know, my boys, it's constant learning. But it's again instilling. How much can we instill? But it's also a reminder for us is we can't stop working on ourselves, you know,
that's right,
because that gives us more capacity to be able to nurture, you know, what we're actually hoping that they receive from us. And we can't say this on one hand and then behave on another. It's like bringing a level of consistency to our parenting, that we're modeling what we're actually saying. And that's where I think the shortfalls are for myself, is saying one thing and then just straight falling on my face in front of them, you know. But it's like readjusting on that, you know.
I think that's very human, and that's probably like going to be our quest until they're in their 20s.
Until they leave the nest, and then it's like,
and beyond.
And beyond, bro, and beyond.
You know, but in exactly the same waka on that. Yeah, definitely, bro. And it's like, that's just a good humbling reminder. Because like, you know, we're not like, we haven't clocked that game, you know, like but it's such a, oh man, it's such a beautiful journey to be on as a dad, and frick, just feels so damn privileged, bro. It's like, yeah, so happy, bro. It's like the happiest I've ever been by a long shot, you know, like I feel really, really content and blessed. Yeah.
Beautiful, bro. That's where I feel as well too, and I shared it with you yesterday, as we were driving, just where I'm feeling within myself too, there's no rush to get anywhere, or there's no sense of missing out on anything. There's just this moment in time that I am really enjoying and just being present with it. And I think that's been like a refresher is, oftentimes my mind can be like, man, I'm not doing enough, or I need to do more, the pressure of bills or whatever, comes on, and it's just nice to be detached from that, in this season. And I think the main thing that comes up for me is what you've spoken into, is that there's evidence and patterns, as how you said you put in the grind and, you've climbed out of holes. For me, it's like knowing that I've had that experience too, and there's evidence of always getting out of it. There's, and so it releases the pressure of feeling like, oh man, I'm in the hole and I'm not going to get out of it. It's actually like, nah, I'm been here before and I don't need to worry as much as I used to. And that's alleviated a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Different, G. Like what you don't want to do, you don't want to keep emulating
that.
So
that's
you're
right.
like, oh, frick, why am I back here again? But you're like, you believe in your own ability to get out, but it's like, how about we just go for a first round knockout instead of the rope-a-dope?
The rope-a-dope, that's right. But it takes a while to catch those patterns, because we're always in it like constantly, and it's not until we go through it a few times that we can change how we're viewing our circumstances in that. And so that's just where I'm at the moment in the driver's seat. And, I just wanted to acknowledge you for the space that you're in and the happiness that you're experiencing, and you're deserving of it all, bro. You're a beautiful man, and it's like, great to, I guess, share this path with you. And now people get an opportunity, to learn more about who you are, and no doubt they've been on this journey with us, and you've shared so much, bro, from being a bogan in Christchurch, traveling over the world to, see a different version of mum that you had never seen, and, coming back and going through your own experiences, only to go through your own sense of adversity, dark night of the soul is what we would say, and that wraparound of the hero's journey, bro, then becoming a hero of being a server in your mum's life. So just want to acknowledge you and thank you for the space, for the person you are, for your family, but also for me as a brother to you. Just want to pass it over to you, bro, if you have any final words to wrap us up.
Oh, kia ora, my bro. Like, just an honor to be here, and I'm so proud of you and the work that you do, and so grateful for the spaces that you move in, and not just this, like the spaces that you move in that people don't see. And I just appreciate you so much as a brother. And it's been great to be here, bro. And a lot of this stuff I've never shared publicly, and I was nervous to come, but I just had my meditation this morning, bro, and my karakia, and just asked mum, for her permission to come and be here and share in the way I have, and it's just felt like really beautiful and supported. So thank you, bro, and keep your eye out for Truly Thugs.
Truly Thugs coming
2026, baby, to the moon.
To the moon
we go.
No, my brother. Thank you, bro.
Brother.
Man.